Thank you.
I want to encourage all our fans tomorrow to bring some toys for Kyle's drive for Christmas. It's certainly not only a worthy cause, but something that we can all feel really good about, so we encourage all our fans to bring something to the game, and we much appreciate it. We're looking forward to building on a terrific performance at Charleston, and we certainly have been a good road team in the past, having one of the better road records in the Big East since we've joined, and we want to start playing some really sound basketball at home as well. So it's something we hope to build on. All our guys really played well in that game, offensively as well as defensively, and we hope we can continue to build.
What's your analysis with the home situation? You talked a little bit about it.
I just think that it's true of a lot of people. They lose their focus at home. They're on edge on the road, and they know they have to pay attention to the scouting report, all the little things, and they lose their edge at home a little bit. And sometimes they get concerned with turning on the crowd rather than just paying attention to the fundamentals of the game.
Has this team had any more trouble with that than some of your other past teams, or not? I mean,
no, I think it's pretty much the same early on, but it's I think we're coming out of it.
After a game like that, what are you finding that you're maybe refining at this point in the year compared to last year, where you were still working on it, to say?
I think every team's different. I don't ever compare like last year at this point of this year. I think right now we're just putting in some things that we already had in last year, and it looked really well in the Charleston game. It went really well for us. Sometimes everything clicks, sometimes it doesn't, based on the scouting report, and you have to adjust during the game. Well, everything just clicked that we wanted to do in that game.
You mentioned on your radio show the Xbox generation and talking about how they learn. Has that changed a lot? Well, not a lot, but has that changed how you coach and teach?
It really started in Streamline with Mike. I had a talk with the academic advisor. I said, how are our guys doing academically? And he said, guys, we're struggling more than we have in the past, and the more that these guys can visually see things, the better they'll be. And that's, I said, really, we struggle with that in basketball. He said, Coach, the more you can show them on the screen, the better you'll be basketball-wise. He said, because these guys really struggle unless they have some visual presentations.
You're doing that more?
We are.
What, I know you always use some tapes of past teams, but what went into your thinking about that particular team and the defense?
Well, we always use that tape. It's every year. It's
that same thing?
Yeah, it's nothing different. When we try to teach the zone and try to teach zone pressure into our run jumps and our mans, we always break out that.
They did it better than a lot of your teams.
The team that I show?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because Andre and Preston and Jerry, they're very, very good at it. Edgar is mixed in there, but he's not quite as good as those guys at the defensive end.
Is that the best effort so far from Kevin in a game? It seemed like he had a little stretch there.
Yeah, we're trying to get Kevin to do more things like Russ. In other words, don't always pull up for the mid-range jump shot. Try to probe and get in there and get fouled and get some layups, and he did a good job in that game.
About Blackshear, how big a boost do you think?
I hope it's a big boost. I told him I was disappointed in his performances because he's not doing a lot of different things. He's just trying to shoot the ball. I said, you have 4 rebounds and offensive rebounds in 7 games. That's not good. You got to start mixing it up and getting in there. And in other words, get over those injuries now. It's time to make your presence known.
He did that.
He did, which is a good sign.
How extensively have you changed your methodology of teaching based on the visual learning?
These guys are, the other day we have a rule, no cell phones when we go out to restaurants. Mm-hmm. And they were all getting off the elevator. And the funny thing about it, there were 2 women in the elevator as well. And everybody was like this, looking at their phones and texting on their phones, including the 2 women. And I made a joke. I said, boy, you're all in this thing together, aren't you? And the two women looked at me, and and she said, oh, yeah, they are very tall. I said, that's not what I meant. And, you know, it's just, you have to deal with this generation. It's a generation that, you know, I spoke about it on my TV show today, about, you know, this is a great thing to, if you want to find out what the rankings on a great restaurant, if you want to find out what time the movie starts, if you want to, there's so many great things about our technology today, and there are so many really bad things about our technology today. It just takes away from the skills of communicating. It takes away from networking. It takes away from reading. It does take away from so many different things because everybody's consumed with this phone. And we have certain rules that we live by, and they're good rules.
Do you need to develop an app to teach basketball? Seriously, for this generation?
Well, you know, it is. I'll give you an example. Before we would do what we do now from a scouting standpoint is totally different than what we did 2 years ago. Now in the side of our gym we have a television, and we will, before we explain what the other team's going to run, now we visually show them, and then we show them how we're going to defend it, and it really works much better, and we don't have to spend as much time doing it because they visually see what the other team's trying to get out of a play.
You used to diagram it like the old days.
Yeah, and we still have to diagram. I mean, I went over a play in a timeout against Charleston and looped through a pass to Shane. I was blown away that it worked. Not that the play worked. I was blown away that our guys could in the huddle look at the board.
Was that game perhaps one of the games that players paid the most attention to the scouting for? Because everything you said did.
You know, when you're on the road, our players are smart enough to realize how difficult it is to win on the road. They realize that team just came off beating Baylor, so they're on edge. You know, some of the great fighters fight their best fights when they know the other person can knock them out, and that's what the road is all about. Our players realize they can get knocked out. They didn't realize that against Illinois State, and they had to press their asses off at the end to win that game. And you know, I said, if that game was on the road, they would have played much better, because Charleston came in last year, and a lot of people misconstrue it as not being ready or taking them lightly. They're not. They're just not on edge that they could be knocked out. And when you go on the road, you're totally on edge. You're comfortable at home, and you can't be comfortable in today's world. You really can't. You got to be on edge, you know. I wish they'd be like me, because I'm sick to my stomach the entire time. Evident in the Bahamas.
Were you a visual learner yourself?
Now, you know, I read a lot, so, you know, and I love to read. There's nothing better than reading. It's so, especially something really, really interesting. And, you know, we force our people to sit there and read with nothing around. And it's really, really important that they learn to do that.
So, I mean, growing up, when you're learning how to play basketball, it's blackboards, X's and O's.
Yeah, it was black and white reels when I was playing. And I remember the big reel they'd take off, and it was black and white television, black and white reels. And then even when I became the New York Knicks assistant, the technology to put the editing together was so time consuming. Now you just type it in and boom. I wish I had that working for UB Brown for 100 games a season.
When did you start going more to the visual part of it?
Starting the last couple of years, but we have so many people. You know, this would be an Adderall clinic here. We need heavy doses of that. We don't give them to them, obviously. This is an Adderall team. We need to just take our time and basically get them to focus.
You talk a lot about Russ. In the last two games, it seems like he's looked to pass the ball.
That was Russ's finest game. I told him that. I said, Russ, you're not going to believe this, but that by far was your finest game. I mean, you did so many good things, passing the basketball, pivoting, you know, and that was just by far his best game at every phase of it fundamentally. He's really getting better and better and better.
What was the last video game you played?
I don't play video games.
Like, even way back to arcade days, back in the day.
I wasn't into that, really, you know.
Not like Pac-Man or anything?
Yeah, I did play Pac-Man, you're right, I did play Pac-Man. Yeah, I enjoyed that game. That was probably the only video game I remember. Yeah, because that was so big.
Rick, how do you decide, you might not even differentiate, but when you're trying to challenge, push certain buttons with players, how do you decide who might respond better to just the straight harsh criticism and who might be wounded?
I think you need to get to know them, and that's the key. Like Luke can be very fragile, and I talked to him a lot about it, and so you got to get Luke used to certain things. His coach told me that going into Jim and I had a discussion, but I think you got to do your homework on every person.
I mean, he doesn't seem like somebody that would
He
be
is.
fragile because
He is. He's over it now. Because I told him, I'm not changing, you're changing.
Yeah, that would do it probably.
But you gotta tell him that, you gotta sit him down and tell him that and say, look, we don't have time for you to be fragile. We gotta get to where we have to go. And because he's so bright, he's a very focused individual, he's
It
very.
just seems so tough on the court, it's hard to.
Well, Luke's his own worst enemy. He beats himself up too much, and he can't do that. He criticizes himself too much. You can't do that. You just got to go out there and win. You have a great game, so be it. Don't get carried away. You have a bad game, don't worry about it. We won.
Any update on Gorgie's condition? How he's?
Well, we're starting to work. We've started to work him out. He's in pitiful shape. When you're in peak form, and then you lose 10 days without doing anything, you get way out of shape. You actually get out of shape in 3 days. We lost 10. So he's in very poor shape right now. But by the time next Friday comes around, we'll have him in great shape again. And I'm hoping to play him in the FIU game.
You think that's optimistic?
That's my optimism.
No.
I'd say I think it's important to get 2 games under your belt before the Kentucky game. I really do. I don't think you can throw him into that environment and not play a few games.
If he's playing bandaged up, how will that affect what he can actually
He's
do?
going to be fine as far as that. The only problem you have is falling. Everything else, getting hit, and that's not going to be a problem. It's just falling. And then what we're going to do is work on him, drawing charges and landing on his butt and getting down there and not landing. He landed on it was a all-out block, and that's why he landed poorly. It was not a charge. And he drew a perfect charge next time out.
Was Nunez hit in the back of the head? Is that how
Say it again?
Nunez, was
Yeah.
he hit in the
Yeah,
with an elbow or
apparently Fred said it's the worst concussion he's ever witnessed. In terms of, not the hit at the time, but in terms of results of what he's going through right now. I've never seen anything like it.
He said, I think he said the other night, you don't expect to see him for a month.
I'd be surprised if he gets back on the court before a month, because he tried to ride a bike and 9 minutes into it now. What has it been? How long has it been?
It's been darn near a month now.
Yeah, and he still has headaches. So he had a real bad hit in the back of his head.
You have a stretch where you only have Saturday, then Saturday. And the finals are they next week?
Yeah, I think we end Tuesday.
How much time do you get in? Obviously, in the gym. Do you like that when you only have one?
Yeah,
day
I think it allows. There are a number of things I like about it. We sometimes play beat the clock, and I think I really hated that. There's sometimes where you only need an hour and 45 minutes of practice, but there are other times where you really need to teach. You really need to slow down and not play beat the clock because of the 20-hour rule. So this is the time where you don't have to pay attention to that. You can take your time and stay with 1 or 2 fundamentals and develop 1 or 2 skills, and just take your time. Let them sleep in and have later practices and just get some things across that you want to get across. And it's a fun time of year for them as well, because they're always rushing from class to get to individual instruction, rushing to the next class, and now they can just take their time as well.
Will you do some recruiting during
Definitely.
the time?
Technically, does the first semester end when exams are over, or when the second semester starts?
Ask about Shane.
Something about Shane.
When second semester starts. Matter of fact, I'm enjoying him not speaking so much. I may put it the whole year.
Have you had a chance to talk to Charlie in the last couple days?
I don't speak much to Charlie, to be honest with you. Not that I don't love the guy, I do, but it's just I don't speak to any of the coaches unless they ask me to speak to the team, or I go to their games and wish them luck. I speak mostly with Jeff Walls. The only problem with this is we're always in our own cocoons and our own facilities, so I have not spoken to him in a long time.
You have no one averaging 30 minutes a game at this point. Do you expect that to change as the conference season comes?
You know, I would say the reason some of them aren't playing that is we've had some blowouts, but I think if you would look at the games, like Peyton and Russ, I think would probably play around 30 minutes a game. Any more than that, the way we play now with our pressure would be difficult. I mean, we've had players before, like T-Will, and those guys played 34 minutes, but I don't see it really. You know, we were talking the other day, Stephen Van Treese, if he gets the minimum amount of minutes, he'll probably be statistically the best offensive rebounder, the most offensive rebounds in college basketball per minutes played. So that's from a statistical standpoint, he's doing a fabulous job right now with that.
Do you see a point of diminishing returns generally with basketball players? 30 minutes is about as much.
I think that's a good. I think with the amount of pressure we put on the ball on a 94-foot level, it's tough to go more than that. I mean, a guy like Peyton or Russ could do it. I don't think anybody else could, and give you 100% all the time.
You're one of the few teams really that press as much as you do press. Why do you think more people don't? Why is it dropped off?
Well, they used to be anywhere from 12 to 15. Now I think you've got Florida does it the way we do it now. Cincinnati does it. Arkansas does it. DePaul does it in a different way. But you know, those teams, they really get after it. Cincinnati last night had 23 steals or 27 steals, 23 steals, which is unheard of.
Well, why aren't there more teams that press? And
It takes great commitment. It takes, first of all, it takes unbelievable conditioning. It takes a strong bench if you get in foul trouble. It takes extraordinary effort to play that way.
Basically, there just aren't that many teams that have all those ingredients that can do that.
Or want to do it.
Or want to do it.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate the defense of this team right now, and what's their ceiling? I mean, certainly you don't have Gorgie right now, but
I think once we put in our zone traps, we became a much better defensive team. And prior to that, we played less than 10 possessions of zone. And with Gorgie out, it changed dramatically. See, everybody kills you with that high pick and roll. And with our zone pressure, it's no problem at all defending that.
You mentioned on the radio show playing IU last night. Where is that at right now?
Well, all I said was that Kevin Mill, they asked us to come to their place and play a home and home. We could not do it next year because we play Kentucky on the road. So we threw out playing at a neutral site, and apparently I don't tweet or retweets or anything like that, but apparently on the way home, Jordan said, Tom Crean responded already.
You said he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, but I'm amazed that he has somebody as part of our team.
Well, why couldn't they, if he wants a home and home, why couldn't they come here first, like next year?
Well, I guess he needs a home game next year, and he's looking for a home game next year. It's not a big deal. I mean, we'd like to do it, but if he doesn't want to do it, it's not a big deal. I mean, we'll go to anybody's place. UCLA has asked us to go out there and play, and we certainly, the only reason we wouldn't do it is we want to stay local. I mean, it's an hour and 45-minute drive, but it's not a big deal to us to play them. We'd like it, but it's not a big deal. The Big East schedule is, I mean, think about it. The best team I've seen this year so far. Now, Duke is great, don't get me wrong, but I thought Syracuse last night, the size and the length of Syracuse was amazing. They got 2 6'4", 5 guards. They got a 6'9" guy in the wing, a 6'8" guy in the wing, and a 7-foot center. And they looked amazing to me last night. I thought Florida looked great. Duke's obviously been great. Indiana's terrific, and I'm missing Gonzaga. I watched the other night on tape. I thought they were terrific. So we're going to play Syracuse twice, Notre Dame twice. We've already played Missouri and at Charleston. We have Kentucky coming in. We're at Memphis. Our schedule is going to be phenomenal this year, and it's going to be a bear. And then Then we go into the Atlantic Coast Conference. So,
Have you
barring any changes, could be in the Pac-12 next week.
Have you found yourself sneaking more looks at ACC teams?
You know,
Too far down the road.
I've seen the ACC a lot. I watch a lot. I've always watched a lot of ACC basketball. The only conference I don't know a whole lot about on watching is the out west. But I watch a lot of. I know Carolina very well, Duke very well. I've watched them for years, so I've got great respect for them.
You look forward to going to Cameron?
You know, there's so many places that I haven't been to, and places I haven't been to, I really love doing that. I'm talking about just visiting as well as being a coach. Cameron's one of those, Little John and Clemson. Who was I speaking to the other day? Oh, I was speaking to a high school coach, Keith Gatlin, who played at Maryland. He was telling me about all the places. And he was saying that, you know, some of these places are really great for basketball, but others are not. He said, now you go to Virginia Tech sometimes and it's packed, it's a tough place to play, and he was telling me about the tough places to play. And it's going to be a nice thing because it's also, you got Notre Dame, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh, which we're quite familiar with, and then you put in all those places. I've never been to Miami's. I've been to their campus, but I've never seen a college basketball game there as well.
Florida State.
I've not seen Florida State been there. But Florida, obviously, it is not one of their stronger teams.
Even though the Big East has been so good for you in this program, does it make it easier knowing that you're, by all accounts, making the new powerhouse conference in basketball when you go?
You know, like I said, I'm going to miss the Big East terribly. I grew up on it in terms of being a coach at Providence at a young age. But, you know, the thing about it is, if you gave me my druthers, I would rather have the Big East the way it was and not move anywhere. But the Big East is not the Big East anymore. You know, we tried to make it stronger by the addition of Temple and Memphis, and it certainly will. And SMU, I thought, would become a terrific program under Larry Brown. But everything is changing. Am I bitter about it? Well, you know, it's upsetting to see such a great conference disband. You know, I'm speaking to Mike the other day in the Bahamas. He was very upset about Maryland leaving the ACC, and you could see it because they're one of the founding members. Well, you know, I wanted to say, Mike, Syracuse is one of the founding members of the Big East, and they're gone. You know, and it's and then you realize it, that so much tradition is gone. Some of the great rivalries are gone, but what you have to do now is build new rivalries. You know, who will it be? You know, will it be a Carolina? Will it be a Duke? Will it be a Miami? You don't know. You know, you don't even know how it's going to shake out. But I, as a 60-year-old coach, I'm really looking forward to visiting new places, building new rivalries, and trying new things.
Anything else, Coach?
Thank you.
Okay.
Give me a moment here. I'm going to just